Hello everyone, I'm Brian. It's 7:50 in the morning and we're getting this nice marine layer above us. There's not sun coming in and hitting us in the eye or anything. The weather's starting to cool down and August is usually when fall crops are being planted. I've never really planned fall crops and in the past I haven't gotten any good harvests from them. So this year my goal is to do a little bit more planning and plant those crops like broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. But it also seems like our weather's shifted a little bit, so I think we're probably gonna get a little bit warmer weather than usual. So I won't plant those until next month. I do have a lot of tomato plants that are ready to go. So what I'll do is I'll clear out these tomatoes, harvest those Romas over there, and plant these guys and see what space is left over and find plants to plant. If you're wondering why I'm sitting on this bale of straw, it's part of my son's barn theme for his birthday, and so were these tomatoes, which is why they were left here. But with that party done and out of the way, we can now clear these out and start our next planting. These are Italian bush Roma tomatoes, and we got quite a few of them here. They're pretty good size. They're already falling off. They're nice and ripe now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them all off the plants and then remove the plants, and then we'll make a roasted salsa with the tomatoes and other ingredients that are around the garden. With many of the other tomato varieties, I grow them more for fun. The Roma tomatoes, I grow them for practical reasons. It's a very practical tomato. I get them and I make sun-dried tomatoes, and they're good to add to pasta. They're also good to enhance pasta sauce with, or even to make a pasta sauce. And then there's also making the pico de gallo and the salsa from them. So it's a really nice, practical tomato variety. We got a little green grasshopper. Check out how massive this root ball is from this Italian Roma bush tomato. A lot of roots there. The soil in this planter is pretty new, and we're just building up its ecosystem in here. These root balls and parts of the roots, I don't know the scientific name for the little hair parts of the roots. They're now part of the soil, and they behave like peat moss, so they help to loosen the soil. So just seeing how the plants have been growing in this new bed, I think it needs some help as far as giving it some nitrogen and other goodies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some more of this Kellogg Organic Plus fertilizer. Its NPK numbers are really low, so that means it's not going to burn the roots or anything. It's got 4% nitrogen, 6% phosphate, and 3% potash. So this is very, very, very low, and sometimes it can be kind of more expensive in a way because you have a whole bag this is about $8, and you're gonna have to use a lot of this to get the same effects as some fertilizer with a higher NPK. But the good thing about this is it has 10% calcium, and calcium's good for plants and trees that make fruit, because that's what they need to produce fruit with, the calcium. So I'm gonna add I think a good amount in here, and I'm gonna go ahead and plant the Cherokee Purple in this spot. This is probably the better spot. It has more sun. So despite being the better spot, some of the other indeterminate tomatoes that I just pulled out, like the German green, Aunt Ruby's German green, and the beefsteak, they didn't grow very well, so as opposed to the Black Prince that are over there with the less desirable spot. So I'm gonna add the fertilizer in here, and then we'll mix it in and we'll start planting our tomatoes. And I'm using this tool called a tiller Maddox. It's one of my favorite tools to use. You won't see me using a garden trowel too much. It's a very robust tool. I can use the tiller part to mix the soil, and then for the Maddox part, it's good for just chopping and moving a lot of soil. And also for weeding, you just chop in near the weed, loosen the soil, and then you can pull the weed up. So this is a tiller mattox. So on the edge here, I'm gonna see if it's cool enough to start carrots. So I'm gonna do some carrots here, and maybe over here I'll do some radishes or beets. Get that space used up. I've got a couple or 3 Cherokee Purple tomatoes, and I think we'll probably be able to squeeze another planting into this year. We're supposed to get warmer than usual weather, and it seems like everything's just shifted by a couple months. So let's see what will happen. Let's see if we can get a Cherokee Purple this year, and so we'll plant this more robust looking guy over here, and hopefully it'll just climb up on here on this trellis like the Black Prince did, and we'll get some tomatoes out of it. So first let's make our hole. It's going to be a pretty deep hole. Let's measure. You can go all out, put some fertilizer down there. I normally don't do this. I'm not going to worry about breaking up the roots. It's not really root bound, so I'm just going to plant it as is. If it was really root bound, then I would start tearing it out a little bit. Okay, for tomatoes, there are one of 2 ways to plant them. When you cover the stem here with dirt, it'll make roots and it'll actually help anchor the plant down. And more roots means more opportunities for the plant to draw nutrition out of the soil. So there's one of 2 ways. You can plant it deeper, or you can lay it on its side and plant it so that the roots are horizontal. Since this is a smaller plant, I'm going to plant it deeper. What you can also do later on is if it gets taller, you can lean it over its side, mound it with soil, and then that way it gets more area for roots to grow. So if it looks like it's buried up to its neck, it is. It's not gonna harm it. I just pulled off this beefsteak tomato, and you can see why it's not doing too well. Look at the root ball. It's a pretty depressed looking root ball. So we have a plant that's been growing all summer, all spring, and it only got this big, and this is supposed to be a beefsteak. It's supposed to be a ginormous tomato, and this is one of the reasons. It's for some reason, I don't know why, the roots just never developed. I'm gonna be generous this time around with the space. I usually plant it about 10 inches apart. I'm gonna give it a good 14. There are 2 tomato plants here, and you may need to look away for this part because I'm gonna rip it off and not use it. Normally what I do is I would separate it, but we're just so late in the season now that I don't think this guy's gonna have a shot, so we're just gonna take him off and plant this guy down. Since he's not as tall, we're gonna have to put the soil back a little bit. So I have the Cherokee Purple tomatoes planted here now, and what I'll do next is clear out the Black Prince tomatoes. I'll get working on that. But first I want to show you this thing. It's not a Rorschach drawing or anything. It's actually the seeds that were saved from the big Black Prince tomatoes that we cut up on video in the Black Prince tomato harvest. This guy's taller, so I'm gonna plant it in here. Some fertilizer. Okay, it's Tuesday morning and it's yard day for my neighbor, so hopefully this mic will not pick up the yard machines. So we planted the Cherokee Purple tomatoes, and then also the Aunt Ruby's German green tomato, and off camera I'll plant some radishes, that Spanish, I think that Spanish black radish that I got in that botanical interest order that I made a opening video of. And then we'll plant some carrots off camera as well too. We have a bunch of compost for the compost pile. Too bad the rabbit doesn't like eating tomato leaves. Otherwise, he can really break this down more quickly, and my compost pile is getting a little bit full now. We also have this basket of Italian Roma tomatoes, and we're going to make a roasted salsa with it. Last time I did it, it wasn't very tasty, to be honest, and hopefully it'll be better this time. I have garlic that I grew, and also maybe I'll use a fresh poblano pepper in the recipe. And then as far as onion, I don't know if I want to use a store-bought brown onion or if I want to go and pick some of the onions that are around. I have mostly red onions, so I'm not sure how that's going to taste if I use that. So I'm going to compost this stuff, and I'll show you a flower that's in bloom. You saw it last time. It's another one this time. And here's the Rorschach, Black Prince Tomato Rorschach ink block. So be curious to know what you see in this. I think I see Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants in here. I guess that's it for this time. Thanks for watching. And as always, happy gardening, and I'll catch you next time. It's August now, and the daylilies are still blooming. They're doing another round. This is a purple dayrol. And then this one is a purplicious daylily. It's got really big blooms. And then next we'll see a Fires of Fiji daylily. I like growing daylilies because there's so many types of colors and shapes and stuff. And this is a Fires of Fiji. It's another big bloom. And it's got a very complex set of petals. And then not too far away is this giant King Richard leek bloom, and some people have commented on how large the flower ball is, so it can be grown ornamentally as well. And then there's one last Arabian Night Dahlia that's blooming, and I left the plant here for it to bloom. So here's the plant and all the dried flowers. And finally, the Black Dragon Coleus. How cool of a name is that? Black Dragon. Look at its beautiful dark leaves. It's also blooming now.